Before a jump, Juan Johnny Rico was always scared. He had received injections and psychotherapy, but he knew it was fear, not excitement as he was told. Rico's platoon, Raskzak's Roughnecks, named after their recently killed leader, Lieutenant Raskzak, stood for inspection in the drop room of the spaceship Roger Young. Sergeant Jalal Jelly conducted the inspection and noticed one soldier's sweet sensors indicating a mild fever. Jelly ordered the man to fall out, and when he started to complain, he was cut off and commanded to stay behind. As a result, Rico's section would be missing a trooper. Jelly reminded the men of the plan to be dropped onto the planet in 2 sections and smash enemy buildings as a quick demonstration of Earth's power. He gave the men 5 minutes for prayers, and some gathered around the Padre. The Roughnecks boarded their capsules in the launch room, and once locked in, Johnny started to shake violently. The captain's voice wished them luck and countdown began. The tubes launched the capsules into space, and Johnny was the last one, with explosive force. He stopped shaking once he was out. The capsule fell toward the ground with its outer layers burning off in the atmosphere, slowing down with each deployed chute. The shell pieces from all the capsules formed a cloud of chaff that obscured the soldiers from radar. Johnny ejected the final shell and descended steadily toward a city bisected by a river. Someone on the ground fired at him, but he deployed his final chutes and veered out of range, landing on top of a warehouse. The data inside Juan's helmet visor showed that the sergeant had landed on the other side of the river. He threw a bomb and used his suit's jets to fly over the water. The explosion from the warehouse came too soon and nearly knocked Johnny off balance, who realized he miscalculated the timing of the bomb. He called out orders to his platoon, landed, targeted a group of public buildings on a hill, and fired a rocket. Johnny responded to his sergeant's orders and jumped over buildings, using a flamethrower to attack the structures behind him. As he landed, the 2-kiloton atomic bomb he had fired detonated, creating flash that would blind anyone nearby and cause locals to take cover from radiation. This gave the soldiers a few extra seconds of advantage to attack. The objective was to cause more destruction than casualties, but it was unavoidable that some would occur. Johnny encountered a local who aimed a weapon at him, and he quickly took them out with his flamethrower. He fired a second atomic bomb at a large target in the distance and gave orders to his squad. To catch up with the rest of the soldiers, Johnny had to hurry, and he narrowly escaped enemy fire. He landed among a group of aliens and used his flamethrower to defend himself before jumping away. In the distance, he saw a large object, possibly a spaceport, and something closer. He fired his last 2 mini-atomic rockets at the 2 targets, then drilled a hole in a building and encountered a large group of aliens. He threw a timed grenade that gave a warning in the alien language, forcing them to evacuate. As dawn approached, the soldiers arrived at the rendezvous point. A retrieval beacon was deployed and recovery was imminent, but one soldier was missing. Johnny and another soldier, Ace, found the missing soldier, Florus, lying wounded with a bloody hole in his suite. They lifted him up and made a series of jet-powered jumps towards the retrieval boat. Sergeant Jalal flew towards them and helped lift Flores, and they boarded the shuttle just in time. However, Flores passed away on the way back to the Roger Young. Johnny remembered that he did not have the intention of joining the federal service when he turned 18, like most people who finish high school and either go to college or start a job. However, his best friend Carl was planning to join. Johnny brought the idea to his wealthy father, who dismissed it, saying that their family has avoided politics and the military for 100 years, and that Johnny's future was set to attend Harvard, the Sorbonne, and work in the family business. His father believed that the world was at peace and the federal service was outdated. Johnny agreed with his father, but he didn't tell Carl. On the final day of their history and moral philosophy class, their instructor, Mr. Dubois, with a missing arm, listened impatiently as a girl claimed that violence doesn't solve problems. He cited Carthage, Napoleon, and Hitler as evidence that violence can change things. After they turned 18, Johnny went with Carl to the recruiting office where they met their fellow graduate, Carmencita Ibanez, who also intended to join. Carmen was described as small, neat, with perfect health and reflexes. She wanted to become a spaceship pilot. Inside the recruiting office, the sergeant suggested Carmen to go upstairs to sign up as a candidate pilot, but tried to discourage Johnny and Carl, saying that there were not enough peacetime positions for standard recruits. He warned them that they were unlikely to get their desired assignment. Despite the warning, Johnny and Carl persisted and were sent for their physicals. The doctor, a civilian, told them that soldiering was for ants and that the prize of the right to vote was worthless. Johnny and Carl filled out their paperwork, swore to the oath of service, committing them to 2 years and possibly more, and they were officially enlisted. The sergeant gave them 2 days of leave, a cooling-off period for them to reconsider their decision. Johnny's parents received the news about his military assignment poorly. His father scolded him and then stopped speaking to him, and his mother went to bed. 2 days later, Johnny returned to the recruiting office to take aptitude tests and indicate his preferences for assignment. Although his least preferred option was K-9, the examiner determined that he was not suited for forming strong bonds with talking neo-dogs. Despite Johnny's good grades, athletic abilities, and leadership positions in school, the examiner asked why he did not study something more useful. Carl received the ER posting he requested, Carmen was sent to pilot school, and Johnny was assigned to the mobile infantry. Johnny underwent basic training at Camp Curry, a chilly tent camp located in the northern prairies. On the first morning, reveille was called before dawn, but Johnny continued to sleep and was tipped out of his cot. 10 minutes later, the recruits, dressed in pants and t-shirts, stood in formation as Sergeant Zim lectured them on protocol, insulted their ancestry, and sent Jenkins, who sneezed, on a long run. Zim challenged anyone who thought they could defeat him in a fight to step forward. A large recruit with a southern accent named Breckenridge accepted the challenge, but Zim quickly overpowered him. Zim then offered himself in combat again, and 2 German recruits attacked him together, only to be knocked unconscious. They were revived with buckets of cold water and returned to the line. Zim offered himself again, but this time a short man named Shujumi stepped forward. He was the son of Colonel Shujumi, a name known to Zim. They bowed to each other and began circling before grappling. Shujumi tossed Zim through the air, but Zim got him into a lock, and he eventually tapped out. Zim helped Shujumi up, and they bowed once more. Zim revealed that Colonel Shujumi was his trainer, and Shujumi nodded, already aware of it. Zim led the recruits in a 20-minute exercise before taking them to the mess hall. Johnny was impressed by Zim's style despite disliking him from the moment he saw him. At the mess hall, Breckenridge had a cast on his wrist, but said he had played football with worse injuries. Johnny was very hungry and ate the decent food, washing it down with coffee. Jenkins, who was exhausted from his run, stumbled over, slumped into a seat, and cursed the trainers. At first, he did not want to eat, but Johnny filled his plate and he eventually ate. He continued to curse and wondered aloud if Zim even had a mother. A nearby corporal responded that no sergeant has a mother, as they reproduce by fission like bacteria. After 3 weeks, the cots were removed and the men had to sleep on the ground. Johnny learned to sleep anywhere, sitting up, standing up, even marching in ranks. Most of the free time was spent doing chores, but now and then there was a moment to write a letter home, compare notes on the moral failings of the sergeants, or speculate that there might be women somewhere at camp. Basic training was deliberately made difficult, not for the amusement of sergeants, but to develop toughness. Overnight treks with inadequate gear became the norm. Most recruits washed out. Johnny hated the experience and nearly quit too, but later he realized that he wouldn't want to go into combat with anyone with lesser training. Johnny and his group were dropped naked into the Canadian Rockies and had to find their way back. Johnny and most of the others made it, clothed in fur from rabbits they'd caught, but 2 recruits failed to return, including Breckenridge. No one could be left behind and everyone fanned out in a careful search. They found the 2 bodies and buried them with full honors. Recruits trained extensively in combat techniques with all types of weapons, from barehanded to simulated nukes. Johnny was impressed. I hadn't known there were so many different ways to fight. Shujumi was dragooned into service as a martial arts instructor. Zim gave more personal attention to the few recruits who had made it this far. One trainee, Hendrik, asked why a soldier would try to use a knife against a heavily armed enemy. Zim answered that the whole point of the training was to become dangerous in any situation, regardless of apparent advantages on the other side. Later, Hendrik violated an order to freeze, hit the dirt and lie perfectly still no matter what. When he landed on an anthill, received ant bites, and shifted his position, Sergeant Zim rapped him with his baton and Hendrik got up and slugged him. Hendrik was court-martialed at the office of the battalion commander, Captain Frankel, on the charge of violating Article 9080 that forbids striking anyone higher in rank. Hendrik offered no defense, believing that Zim striking him with the baton was reason enough to explain why he struck back. The court found him guilty. Usually, the punishment was death by hanging, but the field court had limited authority and could only sentence Hendrik to 10 lashes and a bad conduct discharge. The sentence was carried out at noon before the assembled recruits. The lashing was grisly. Johnny fainted. He was revived and learned that 24 other recruits also fainted. This is the end of part 1. If you liked what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, thank you for watching this long. See you soon on Books Recapped.